Hey everybody, what's up? It's Red from hashtag The More You Know and Coffee and Conversation. I'm here with Underground Media tonight to talk to you about Anchor FM. If you have not heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. Anchor is your one-stop shop for podcasts. First, Anchor is free. That's right, you heard me correctly. It is free. Anchor will provide you with the creation tools necessary to record and edit your podcast straight from your phone or your computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. Do you like to make money? Sure you do. We all do. Who doesn't? You can make money with your podcast with no minimum listenership required. That's right, no minimum listenership. How awesome is that? So do yourself a favor and go to www.anchor.fm or go to your app store and download the free Anchor.fm app and get started today.
Thank you, Jeff Shoup and Beyond Barriers, for welcoming me again to your podcast, and I appreciate it. And we collaborated in creating a message, and the message was about white conspiracy and also white supremacy, the underpinnings and understandings of it. My first question is, why did you make this message about conspiracy theory?
Well, conspiracy theories are the gateway to a lot of different problems that we face right now as a nation. And, we're trying to bring people out of these movements, get them out of these movements, and speak to Americans in a different manner.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but when it comes to conspiracies, you talk about understanding and compassion. You know, when people think about extremism, they think of hatred and anger. They don't think of compassion and understanding as being the response to it. I mean, can you explain that further for me?
Well, let me quote Dr. Martin Luther King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Through compassion and understanding, we're going to be able to reach a lot more people than meeting hate with hate. One thing that doesn't work, punching a Nazi in the face, it doesn't work. Coming from that background, having those experiences, I can tell you that every time someone put pressure on me, every time someone got violent over those years, it just drove me further into that type of extremism. So we are using basically like a reverse osmosis type of program to repair that, to fix that. You're not gonna convince anyone of anything. If you meet anger with anger, you have to be rational. You have to show compassion. You have to have empathy. You have to, reconnect with one's humanity. It's the humanity that people are losing track of when they get involved in these type of organizations. They're losing that touch with humanity because they're dehumanizing other people, and in the process, they need to be rehumanized themselves.
You see, that's an interesting perspective. And the main reason why it's an interesting perspective, because as a Muslim activist who fought against extremism at the local level, grassroots level, that was the number one complaint Muslims had. And I'm hearing the same thing from white people across the country and across the world. It is, look, we are being scapegoated. We are being called racist. We are being called enemies of the state. We are being called distrusted by society. And because of that, we then become what we are not supposed to become. Basically, this is the number one driver into extremism. The number one driver is grievances. And when we go against people based on grievances, and we perpetuate the grievance mechanisms without understanding and compassion, then we can't de-radicalize.
Exactly.
Right. And it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because the comparisons between the Islamic extremism and the white nationalist extremism, they're different ideologies, but they drive back to the same these same basic principles of why people get involved in these things. Sometimes it's people that are searching for something. It's fear-based. It's highly fear-based, a lot of it. And using these grievances that people are talking about in the mainstream quite often, white replacement theory, these type of things, are making everything about race in society. These are those dividing factors. These are those grievances. And as someone that used to use those tools to recruit people, that's adding fuel to the fire. We have to have conversations in this country, and we have to get back to that table where we're having a dialogue and we're having conversations with one another. And that's something that we're not seeing in the public discourse right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, our Average Mohamed organization is built on the premises of dialogue and conversation because it serves humanity. When we have honest to God dialogue and conversation without labeling people, without saying you, the other, and instead of saying us, the people, that goes a long way. That goes a long, long way, especially for our youth and our kids. That's why we collaborated with Beyond Barriers, Average Mohamed organization, to create this message. And we will play this message in this segment.
Average Mohamed, presenting former National Socialist Movement leader, Jeff Shoup and Acacia Dietz, former media guru for the same Nazi Party of America.
Hey Jeff, do you know how to tell the difference between a conspiracy and the truth?
First of all, I consider a conspiracy theory to be a gateway to more conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories motivate some extremists to fight back against a threat, whether that threat is real or not.
Can you break down the conspiracy of white genocide and that the Jews control the world?
Sure. From white genocide to Jews controlling the world to Holocaust denial, all the way to the source: fear. Fear of retribution and being held accountable for the sins of past generations who committed human rights violations and atrocities. Before breaking this down, let's be sure our audience knows that the conspiracy theories I'm talking about are not true. The theory of white genocide is based on the irrational fear that white people will cease to exist and will be replaced by other races. This plays into the age-old anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that the Jews are trying to eradicate the white race and by doing so can control the world.
What about the conspiracy theorists who say the Holocaust didn't happen?
The historical evidence, including pictures and personal testimonials, document that the Jewish people were tortured and died during the Holocaust. To those who question these events, I point them in the direction of not only the documented suffering by the Jewish victims, but by all the victims of the Holocaust. These prove that many lives were lost, and any life lost is an atrocity. Whether it's one life or 6 million lives, the most important thing to remember about conspiracy theorists is that their truth is not the truth.
In other words, these conspiracy theories of white genocide and Jews controlling the world are fake news, tools to recruit you into extremism. Don't be a fool or a victim into believing falsehoods of conspiracy theories. This is how Jeff Shoup and Acacia Dietz recruited folks into extremism. Today, they are warning you all as Beyond Barriers organization. Their mission is freedom from the barriers of the mind. Learn more at www.beyondbarriersusa.org. Peace up, extremists sticking out.
Hey, Jeff, again, I got a question for you. I mean, I read up your stuff that you used to write 25 years ago. And you are violently against the Jews. And in this message, you're saying this theory, conspiracy theory, that the Jews are leading the world to the replacement of white people is age old. Can you explain a little bit more about that? I mean, and what caused the change?
Well, in my past, when I was involved with America's Nazi Party or the National Socialist Movement, that was one of the biggest conspiracy theories that the organization pushed, was that Jews control the world. It's one of many conspiracy theories, but that one is easily debunkable. But to the people that are in these type of organizations, they truly believe these type of things. So we know through civil discourse, through dialogue and through conversations. And this is another reason why we teamed up with Average Mohamed organization, because this is what you guys do as well. And you're very good at it, is we are trying to reach people through that dialogue and through breaking down these conspiracy theories. People that are involved in white nationalism, and a lot of times in Islamic extremism as well, as I'm sure you can speak well on that. The Jewish people have been vilified. These are age-old anti-Semitic tropes that go back hundreds of years in some cases. Blood libel, the Jewish ritual murder, all of these conspiracy theories are being peddled by hate groups, by movement groups, by extremist groups. But the correct way of approaching people involved in these things is to offer them different perspectives, to have that conversation. Screaming at somebody, yelling in someone's face that they're wrong, or name calling them they're racist, bigot, whatever name, insert in this category here, insert inside box. Those type of things don't work. People's minds shut down. And coming from the propaganda perspective too, having been an extremist for all those years, I can attest to how we in those days tapped into those fears, tapped into those worries and concerns, and used that as fuel for recruitment. It fueled the grievances, and then we recruited on it. Sometimes if you could get somebody in the door on just that one conspiracy theory or that one grievance, that one issue, you had them in the door, and then it was a slippery slope down the hill. What are your experience on that? Well,
we at Average Mohamed organization have experienced anti-Semitism, and we're looking at it. And the reason why we started looking at anti-Semitism because we started experiencing Islamophobia. Now, previous to September 11th, I can tell you, me being a Muslim didn't matter to anybody. Literally, nobody cared. You're a Muslim, cool. Now, after September 11th, we became the suspects. We became the distrusted. We became the enemy. We became the people who have to be watched. And a lot of it is based on Islamophobia, but some of it is national security too. And there's a fine balance between the two in terms of what our government can and cannot do. And what happened is what can be said of the Jews can be said of the Muslims today. So we're in the same boat. But if you look at America, the Jewish population is 2%. 2% of the American population, and they make up for 57.5% of all the hate crimes in America because they're Jewish. There's a problem there, a very serious problem. So we at Average Mohamed speak for humanity. That means we speak for our Jewish brothers and sisters. That means we have to going about talking about anti-Semitism. And the reason why is because I don't want to see a Muslim who is facing Islamophobia to be an anti-Semite. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. At the same time, too, we don't want our other kids who are mainstream kids becoming anti-Semites based on propaganda coming from violent jihadists or coming from white supremacists. Either way, we don't want it. And we don't want that in our society. So we use conversation, and we will use dialogue, and we will engage our kids. That's why we made these messages.
Well, it definitely sounds like we're on the same page here between the organizations and the messaging, and that's why it's been such an honor to team up with you for these collaborative projects, because we're coming at this from similar directions, but from different experiences. You having the experience in the Islamic world, and us having the experience in the formerly in the white nationalist sphere of things. But it does sound like one thing I'm hearing, the commonalities and the similarities here, is that it seems like it's very much fear-based, and a lot of it has to do with lack of education or misunderstandings of these different groups. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I've seen some sophisticated, highly educated people be anti-Semites and Islamophobes. And I've seen people who are not educated, gangbangers, people who are just regular working class people, become anti-Semites and Islamophobes. Now, what we do know and what we do understand is this: information is power. It is who gets to the next generation, who gets to the kids, and who says this is not cool. This is some form of hate. And if it is hate, which is like racism, which we abhor today, and if it's hate, which we abhor, which is Islamophobia or anti-Semitism, whether it's systematic, if you believe in that, or whether you believe it's societal, if you believe in that, then these are the answers. The answer is information. The answer is messaging. It starts with messaging. That's why I love Beyond Barriers, because you're doing the messaging. You're working with this white nationalists to pull them out. At the same time, too, we are working with the violent jihadis and people who are on the spectrum, going there in terms of pulling them out globally, in terms of messaging. Yes. And messaging is the most important component. Now, our government does the same thing. But the difference is this community we are targeting does not trust government.
Yes.
But a Jeff Shub or Mohamed Ahmed, who has no agenda other than just being citizens, speaking honestly and frankly, that has an impact. And that is what we're looking for.
Exactly.
Okay,
and I think it's really amazing that we are using cartoons, because a lot of people think about counter messaging as only podcasts or videos and stuff like that. Whereas cartoons, you can convey a message and you can hit a younger demographic. If we are going to enact change within our societies and long lasting, we have to start with our youth, and it has to start early and train them up in the way and show them. And it's another great way to counter message and to message that hits a larger demographic and that is long lasting.
You know, with cartoons, here's the advantage. You can create anything and everything, you know, on a low budget.
Yes, yes.
Now, we paid for this project ourselves. Again, there's an issue of funding this process. And God bless our government. Their heart is in the right place, and these are heroes. They're trying to do their best. But they've invested everything into surveillance and war mechanisms. And this is needed. We're not saying that they're not needed. But think about this. It cost 80 cents to buy a bullet to stop a white supremacist or a violent jihadist about to attack our society. But with the same 80 cents, if given to a Jeff Shub or given to a KJDS or Beyond Barriers or an average Mohammed, such as Mohamed Ahmed, we can reach 26 people with a message of hope. 26 people at 3 cents a pop. Now, doesn't it make sense to our government to fund organizations? And instead of them telling us what to do, like they've been telling us for the last 20 years against violent jihadists, and today you know where we stand at. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a genius to figure out that things are not going okay around the world in terms of this war on terror. They should be humble enough to listen to us activists on the ground and saying, look, we have the solutions, but you gotta meet us halfway. At least resource us, at least enable us, at least allow networks to form, at least allow opportunity to develop. And these are important things which we need from our government. And I'm knocking very hard publicly on them, and I'm campaigning on that, and I'm lobbying on that. And inshallah, if God wills it, we will go to our politicians with it, we will go to our government agencies with it, and they're reading our stuff, and they're looking at us, and they're saying, why are these people doing this? Well, we're giving them the reason why. And more importantly, go ask the kid who saw our message. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is incredibly important with the work that we're doing too. And, you know, a lot of times, and I agree with you 100%, that the government has the best of intentions. They do want to tackle this stuff. They do want to confront it. But a lot of times they're not doing it the correct way. I think if nothing else, even if you don't want to admit it's not the correct way, give us a chance. Give us a chance to be able to do the work that we're doing and show what we can do, because you know, the lives we're changing all the time, you know, as well as we do. Like, I mean, we've got people reaching out all the time, just as you do, and we're off-ramping people that would have went into these organizations, or we're helping people that were in these organizations walk back out. So that dialogue, that civil discourse, those conversations, and having that experience, having been in in that world before, that the people know, you know, they understand that, and they know that we've been there. So we have that commonality. So we have that experience that we both share. So a lot of times there's people that are reaching out to us that, you know, the government could set up an office tomorrow and say, hey, come here for help. And everybody go, oh no, that's the government. No, we're not going to do that. People in these movements already don't trust the government, but they will trust people like us that have been there, that have walked that path before, because it's that commonality. And that's what we have to find, I think, as humanity as a whole, and stop othering one another and seeing each other as brothers and sisters, because that's a much better way to look at life.
Mm-hmm. Here is what I found out. When you talk to the foot soldiers of our government, the people on the ground, they actually love us and they say thank you. But when we talk to the leadership, when it comes to sharing resources, they are very, very skeptical. And the reason why skepticism is because they fear losing control. And that is something that we would advise them, is this, and I tell them all the time, trust in your citizens. When you trust in your citizens are the change. Your citizens will bring about what you're seeking and what you're trying to achieve, whether we are an average Mohamed or an organization along the similar lines. And this is very important. Us self-funding this process, like the way we're making these messages ourselves, we funded it ourselves, we made it ourselves. We couldn't even hire actors to do it, we did it ourselves. And to disseminate and get that 3 cents to go globally, again, we'll have to pay for it ourselves. That is no way to run a democracy. That is no way to run a democracy. And this is important, that our government get in on their action at the grassroots level. It is important our agency heads figure this one out. We're asking our State Department, our Department of Homeland Security, our Department of Justice, and our Department of FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigations, and even our CIA, because there's an international component to this. Please come down to our level at the grassroots level and let us go to work together.
Exactly. Yes.
Government to people. We're asking you. You are our heroes. We are your champions. Put us in.
Exactly. And we have to do it together. You know, we can't continue to do the work on the level that we've been doing on our own without the funding, and the government can't expect to tackle this type of extremism without expert help of people that have been there, that understand it. So organizations like Average Mohamed, Beyond Barriers, it is critically important that we're able to continue this work and hopefully continue it at a higher level. If we have some sort of ability to do more, just as Mohamed explained, just 3 cents can get those videos out there into different people's hands. So we definitely need to keep pushing.
Let me ask you, I mean, what is your biggest challenge right now?
There are so many challenges that we're facing today with trying to get people out and things like that. And I mean, to be honest, I guess to be completely frank and honest, it's funding. I mean, when we're in a situation where we're not able to travel to go meet people that are getting out or that are trying to get out and meet with them in person, because we don't have the funding to do that, that's an issue. If we don't have the funding to continue to make videos like this project that we're showing today, that's an issue. we're also self-funded, and a lot of this stuff has come out of pocket and from the handful of people that do support the work. It's hard to maintain. It's hard to maintain doing that, and the amount of hours that we volunteer and put in every single day to help others is absolutely incredible, and I don't regret it for 1 second. It's a positive thing. It's a good thing. We want to help our country. We want to help people. You cannot put a price tag on the human life, and for each person we off ramp, had that person went and done a terrorist attack or caused a mass casualty event, imagine the numbers of lives saved by just off-ramping that one person. The ripple effect of all the families, of all the people that could have been victims in a church attack or a synagogue attack or a mosque attack. We've seen these all across the country and in different parts of the globe, all over the world. We have to stop this type of thing from happening. And that's why, Average Mohamed and Beyond Barriers are teaming up for this messaging. And that's why we're having this conversation again, and welcome you back onto the podcast.
Well, the biggest challenge we face at Average Mohamed is scaling up. It's the same thing, funding issues. For 7 years, we've asked everybody, just about anybody on this planet, for funding. And the Europeans say go to Americans, the corporations and multinationals say go to American government. And the American government is saying, hold on, we are not ready to fund you guys. And there's a reason why they're not ready to fund us, guys. It's because politically, this has been in the realm of law enforcement and military means. And if you look at 20 years on the war on terror, nobody can claim, it doesn't matter whether you're in government or out of government, that we have been successful in implementing our process. And what is missing is citizen to citizen empowerment. What is missing is grassroots empowerment. What is missing is people to people communication, dialogue, conversations, and more importantly, off-ramping of this ideology. It takes an idea to defeat an idea. And unfortunately, the communities we're talking about, they don't trust government. They don't. But they have no issues talking to an Average Mohamed or talking to Beyond Barriers, because we come from the society, we come from the community, I come from the tribes, I come from the religion, and I come from a perspective that is Americana. Every kid can understand that, and every human being can understand that, because we believe in American destiny, and we believe in our country, and we believe that it is important we defend our country and we defend our values, whether it's secular democracy or anti-hate or anti-extremism. Whether it's antisemitism, homophobia, Islamophobia, racism, or even anti-Christianity, which is a real situation happening around the world right now. And we believe messaging is the way to go forward. More importantly, we can train thousands of others to do the same work we're doing. We can create thousands of messages to do the same thing. The ideas are there. The question is the question of resources and resource allocation. Now, again, who do we go to in America? Who do we go to? Who does an Average Mohamed go to, or Beyond Barriers go to in America? Now, let me go back in history, because I'm an amateur historian. And during World War II, there was an office of propaganda in the office of war. During World War I, there was the same thing. Since the war on terror started, we don't have anything similar to that. And more importantly, the main reason why we don't have that is because our government is in the false assumption that media and social media and the public itself will take care of itself. Well, what it has led to is polarization.
Right.
Now, people don't trust government, but that doesn't mean that we don't need our government to do this work. And more importantly, the government during fighting communism created the Voice of America, Radio Free Liberty in Europe. You know what Europeans tell me of that generation? They say, no matter how much propaganda the communists were telling them, when they had Radio Liberty Europe, they gave them hope. Mm-hmm. Where is the hope?
Yeah.
Where is the hope? I don't see the hope. I can see the law enforcement and I can see the war mechanism. But where is the third part, which is hope, which is America, which is brand America? America has been known to be the country of a fair shake. It is known all around the world as the most freest country in the world. You can go to any part of America and it's like living in 50 different countries in America, because that is how much freedom we believe in. It's not a one-size-fits-all society, you know? And it is important that we promote our hope. And that's what Beyond Barriers is doing. That's what Average Mohamed is doing. And this hope needs resources. Without resources, we can't keep on self-funding this. I'm a blue-collar worker in America. I can't keep on using my paycheck to pay for this. Neither can Beyond Barriers be using their own paycheck to pay for this. It's shameful. It's just shameful. We're the richest country in the world. And we can pay for a Tomahawk missile to kill one individual, which costs $1 million. And we can't pay $1 million to spread the message of hope. It is very shameful because it is dereliction of duty by those in charge. And it is our duty as citizens to call them out on it.
Well said. There's not much that can be said to follow that up because it is so true. You know, America has to lead the way in this, I believe, and I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you just said. I mean, we are doing everything we can with very meager, limited resources. If we could increase that and do more, the messaging could be more powerful. It could be more widespread. We have to look at this from a peaceful perspective, that by having these dialogues, by having dialogue and by having these conversations and by talking to people and doing counter messaging and reaching out through those ways, through these positive means, wouldn't that be better than having to go to war? Wouldn't that be better than having to lock people up or hopefully catch somebody before they go and harm others because they've been so radicalized? The country is being torn to shreds right now in a lot of ways, where you have, even between the political parties, Democrats and the Republicans, the polarization is so divided right now that people aren't talking to each other. You know, we have situations where there's families, like brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, that are like, well, if you voted for Trump, we're not going to talk to you. Or you voted for Biden, we're not going to talk to you. That's how divided we are as a country. So society, our society as a whole, is partially to blame for this. And we can do better. We can do better as Americans, as patriots, as people that love our country. We can do better. We can lead the way. We can show how it's done. We just need that opportunity. We need to be able to, I think we're doing good work, but we could do so much more if we had the ability to do so.
You raise a very important point in terms of polarization within our society. Now, unfortunately, it came out that I'm a Republican. And I say fortunately because I'm also a Republican activist. I campaign for Republicans, I work for Republicans, but that is my personal choice. And this is something true in America. And I would say this: what we are seeing happening to our political process is one in which foreign actors are taking advantage of. Mm-hmm. If you look at the people who are trolling people, the people who are promoting these far extreme ideas, they're coming from Russia, China, Iran. We know it, the whole world knows it. I mean, there's research paper after research paper telling you about it. And they're building us because they believe that to destroy America, they can't destroy us. But internally, we can't destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
They know that.
Yeah.
Now, who is the people who are going out and saying, these values of yours that you're trying to promote within our country to divide us, we're going to counter it with our own messages? It is Average Mohamed organization and Beyond Barriers. Yep. Our government is doing the same, but then again, the group and the people we're trying to target don't trust government. They just don't. I believe in my government, but even I don't trust government. And that's normal because in our democracy, our government is held accountable. And trusting in government is not a big feature of our democratic process. It is an accountable government that we trust. And I wish the Biden administration good luck. And the main reason why I wish the Biden administration good luck, because this is something that has been happening over decades, and it falls on your lap now. For the National Security Directorate, for the agency heads, for the organizations, for the Department of Education, all the way down to the municipal councils. This is a problem that has been happening for decades. But then again, prevention is better than the cure.
Yes.
Think about the coronavirus. They say put on masks, get a vaccination, go out there and keep 6 feet distance. All this is preventive mechanisms. We are the beyond barriers and average Mohammed, the prevention mechanism.
Exactly.
We are it. You're looking at it. And we are proudly Americans. Proudly. I mean, proudly Americans. We value our country, to stand up for it, even though now we're asking for those in charge of our country to stand up with us. And this is important because that's what's the missing component to winning this war of ideas. It is a recommitment by our government to go all out and say, look, Average Mohammed, I'll put you to work. Beyond Barriers, I'll put you to work. Other organizations across the country will put you to work. I mean, for God's sakes, we're asking for only 3 cents to reach our soul. 3 pennies. 3 pennies. Think about that.
Exactly.
And we can't get that from our government. Now, what gives?
Well, this is our message. This is our message to the government, you know, is that we need to be supported in these efforts the best we can. We're not saying that, you know, just to throw finances at us for no reason. We're out here doing the work. We can prove it. We are doing it. We are doing the work, and we can do so much more if we have the ability to do that. And I think, you know, the methods that have been utilized up to this point, a lot of them are not working. What we do, we know it works. It's not going to work every single time for every single case, but what we do is successful, and we're reaching people. We're having those difficult conversations. We are the front lines of this fight against extremism. All the time, I'm hearing different things. I could tell you, I was on a program last week with another organization where I was speaking, and there was an audience question that had came up, and they said, well, the government has allocated millions or billions of dollars. I forget the figure, but they said they've allocated a lot of money to fight extremism in this country. Is it really, do you guys really need that? You know, I think the individual assumed we were being funded. So I explained, I said, you're right. There has been quite a bit of funding that's been set aside for this type of work, but we've not seen not 1 penny of that. And I know Average Mohammed hasn't either. And so all we're saying is look at some of us that are out here on the front lines that are doing this work. What we're doing is critical. It is absolutely critical to saving lives and changing lives.
Can you briefly explain white supremacy underpinnings and understanding, the message we created?
So a lot of people that are involved in white supremacist movements, they are not there believing that necessarily that they hate everybody and that sort of thing. They believe that the white race is under threat. So that's why they're involved in this. So it goes back to fear. So when we had a message here where we're talking about white supremacy and why people get involved in this, and the fears and the concerns, the worries, the grievances, all of these deep-seated feelings, which really drives back to the fear. So at Beyond Barriers, we look at the fears that the individual has, and we show them that it's irrational. We don't tell them that it's irrational. We don't tell them that they're wrong, but we give them other perspectives and other ways of looking at things. And when you have these reciprocal conversations where you've listened to what they've said, all right, this is how a conversation starts. You've listened to what they've said, as reprehensible or as ugly as that conversation may be, and even we don't agree with it, we listen. Now they have to listen to us. Conversations are reciprocal. So now we have our opportunity to insert a different viewpoint, a different way of looking at things. And we have these conversations, and it doesn't always set in that moment, you know, like the snap of your fingers. It doesn't always come right then and there, but it will make that individual think. It will give them that, plant that seed that can change lives. And that's what we're looking at doing. So check out our this wonderful video between Average Mohammed and Beyond Barriers, and we hope you enjoy it.
What is white supremacy extremism, underpinnings and solutions. Average Mohamed asked a former white supremacist leader, listen up, peace up, extremist thinking out.
Do you know what an extremist is? A terrorist? We all know that they do terrible things, that they say they hate people, and they even want to kill them just for being different. But there's something you might not know about hatred. Did you know that hatred is sometimes fear in disguise? I'm Jeff Scoop. For 25 years, I was the leader of a hate group called the National Socialist Movement. You might know this group as America's Nazi Party. In my 25 years, I saw a lot of fear, a lot of hatred, and I can tell you what extremists are really afraid of. What is behind all the hatred? One thing many extremists fear is genocide. Some believe their entire race is being threatened, and they feel what they are doing is in self-defense. We may not understand that fear, but to them, it is very real. If we want to help them, we need to understand them, their fear, even if we disagree. Let me tell you what that fear feels like. It's a crushing, all-consuming emotion. You feel stuck. You feel under attack. You feel like the whole world is coming down on you. So you look for something to grasp onto, to fight back in that sense. And you find an extremist group. So to break down those narratives and to push away those false misconceptions, those deep-seated fears, we have to first understand those fears. Once we understand them, we can help them to escape that fear and leave that hatred behind. I was very lucky. I had someone that helped me to leave fear and hatred behind. A Muslim filmmaker by the name of Dia Khan. She was able to show me compassion and her humanity, which helped me to be able to reconnect with my own humanity. And that is the message that we want to get across to you today. You can change people's minds, but you have to approach it from a place of tolerance, compassion, and understanding, not anger and hatred. Today, I lead an organization that is committed to challenging fear and hatred. It's called Beyond Barriers. We feel that fear and hatred are barriers that imprison people's minds and hearts. I lost 25 years of my life to an irrational fear that my people were under a terrible threat. And when I discovered that I was wrong, I could have done so many things with that time. Time I can never get back. Don't throw your time, your life away on fear and hatred. That's a game no one wins in the end.
Well, I think this is how we end our conversation today. And more importantly, what we want to say is I am glad Beyond Barriers exists. And I'm glad that Average Mohamed exists. And our goal is simply put to counter the narratives, create that narrative to go out there and win minds. We want to win minds. And this message will be going into schools with Average Mohamed organization, and we will promote it on social media. Again, on all social media. And hopefully we will get millions of people to watch it. And the goal is to go ahead and say, we are the prevention. Let's start this process of conversation and dialogue, and let's continue with it. So thank you for the opportunity to be on the podcast. And we could use all the help we could get.